Today I watched A Futile and Stupid Gesture. It is a Netflix movie, and it was a, docu-drama slash biopic of Doug Kenney, who founded National Lampoon magazine and also the company in general, the movies that were spawned afterwards, and who died tragically in 1980. Now, let me just say something. Full disclosure, I did not know this story, okay? I did not know the story going in, and I think that had a lot to do with the way I viewed the movie. I didn't know the beginnings of National Lampoon magazine. I didn't know that Doug Kenney went to Harvard. I didn't know that Doug Kenney died in 1980. And I'm almost embarrassed to admit that because I think of myself as someone who knows a bit about pop culture and history of pop culture and stuff like that. And I didn't know that story. So going into this movie, I feel like I got to view it more honestly than maybe someone who already knew this story and was just looking to see how it was portrayed. Now, this was the version that this movie is, the version of the story that it is a book that was written by the same name. And, it's from a different perspective. But the way they filmed the movie was that it was Doug Kenney narrating. And as you can imagine, that really threw me off when it got to the end of the movie. I think it was honestly really cool the way they did it, considering what the story was about. It was kind of this tragic story, right? And the way they portrayed it was very comical. It was a hilarious movie. I really enjoyed the comedy in this film. It kind of reminded me of I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. Like the narration style, the constant one-liners, and they were all great one-liners. So it made for a really funny movie. And then I didn't kind of already know about the tragic ending, so I got to enjoy all that comedy as it was, right? And I think it made it that much better for me, viewing it. So, people who already knew the story probably don't think this is as good of a movie as I do, but I really, really enjoyed this movie. Like I said, I didn't know about the origins of National Lampoon, and I didn't know about Doug Kenney's death. I know the movies that he wrote, Animal House and Caddyshack, cult classics, right? But I had no idea of the story behind any of this, or behind the National Lampoon brand, and it was really cool. I really enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people probably who knew the story, which is probably a lot of people who watched the movie, probably weren't as interested during the entire film as I was, because I was really looking to see how things played out. I was looking to see what ended up happening to this group of people, and especially to Doug Kenney, and I got to witness it as a brand new story. And so I can honestly give this thing a solid 8. You know what? I'll go 8.5 on this, because it was really funny all the way through, and it was a good story. Like, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this movie. I definitely would recommend it. I think that, like I said, if I was a person who knew the story ahead of time, had maybe heard it a billion times and heard different renditions of it, maybe this movie would only be a 7 for me, right? But given that I didn't really know the history at all, it was all brand new to me, and it was really fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I'd 100% recommend it, and I give it a solid 8.5. that's as honest a review as you can get, because I gave full disclosure. I had no idea about this story, so it was like watching a brand new story for me. It was like watching a brand new movie that I knew nothing about. So I knew the premise, but I had no idea how the story went, and definitely didn't know how it ended. And so it was really cool how they had it narrated by this kind of, it was like the version of Doug Kenney that would be here if he had lived. And it was just a really interesting way to view the movie, right? To have him narrate the story, even though, he's not around to narrate the story. So, yeah, I just really enjoyed the movie, and like I said, 100% recommend it. You should definitely check it out. I don't understand all the negative ratings. Maybe it's, like I said, maybe because of historical inaccuracies, or maybe because of people who just knew the story to death, and no pun intended, just didn't find it as interesting as I did. But a lot of the ratings were like, I think 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, like 6 or 7 IMDb rating, and that's insane to me, because I thoroughly enjoyed this film.